What's up, guys? Welcome back. New video, and I want to talk about the news that came out today that at UFC 269, an already great card, right? You have Poirier and Oliveira. You have Nunes versus PEña. You have Dominic Cruz fighting again. And you also now have the fight that so many have been wanting for so long as Leon Edwards now gets Jorge Masvidal. So there are a number of layers to this fight. One, the fact that Leon Edwards has not fought for a title yet tells you that this is the right move because he has not had those wins that propel him into that title shot that make people feel like they want to see him versus Usman again. Now, he's beaten Nate Diaz in the last fight. He won the fight going away, 5 rounds. And honestly, was never in any trouble until the very end of the fight when Nate hurt him. But again, we're talking about Nate Diaz. So when you talk about Nate Diaz, he lands that punch that hurts Leon, and it became the story. So even in the win, Leon Edwards somehow still kind of lost. Wasn't enough to earn that title fight. Even though Dana said before the fight, something impressive will get him that title fight he has been chasing for so long. Now, in steps Jorge Masvidal. You guys all know these guys have a ton of history. All the way back, they both fight on the same card. Leon gets in his face. Masvidal hits him. Bink, bink. 2-piece in the soda. Rest is history. These guys have the story. We have been pining for the story for a long time. But after that, you go back, Masvidal's on a run. Knocks out Darren Till, knocks out Ben Askren, beats Nate Diaz. He's at the top of the world. Leon is working his way up towards that status. Masvidal wants no part of him. He doesn't want to talk about Leon Edwards. It's title fight or nothing. Story fast forward. Dude gets on a plane, stops for pizza, gets to Abu Dhabi, loses to Kamaru Usman. But because he took it on such short notice, now you get a rematch. Usman knocks him out in Jacksonville. Now it's time for Masvidal to start to rebuild his career. Here's one thing that people are underestimating about the Masvidal team. They have taken a guy that's lost double-digit fights, and have made him such a massive superstar by making the right moves every time. This is the same team, though, that manages Paige Van Zandt. With Paige Van Zandt, I feel like they've made the wrong move at every turn. So her career as it goes here, Masvidal just continues to find himself in positions to make more money, but not only make more money, this one here really sets him up to where if a couple things go the right way, he might find himself fighting for the UFC championship again in another massive fight. So let's talk about Leon Edwards. Where does this leave Leon? One, making a ton of money. So when people talk about why is he taking the fight now, I thought ignore him. Ignore him like Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal did to you last year. Don't give him the time of day. But then when you start looking at 7 figures, like he tweeted today, millionaire, you start to reconsider and you think, now I get my get back in a fight that if I put Diaz in front of Masvidal, now you can't deny me a title shot. Plus, I'm making a boatload of money for Rocky Edwards. Hats off to you, my friend. Congratulations on well-earned cash and also on finally getting that big fight that no one can ignore. If you win, it gives you the title shot that you've wanted for so long. Now, I love that story. I just feel like the payoff, and I'm a guy that loves the slow build. I love when the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan didn't fight for a year until they got to WrestleMania. And then Hogan put the Warrior over, and the rest is history. I love the slow build. But I feel like the payoff to this one should have been about 10 to 12 months ago. Those guys should have fought. It was teed up perfectly for them to have felt or felt like they should have completed the story. But they didn't. Because, again, those guys wanted no part of Leon Edwards. He wasn't worthy. He wasn't a big enough name. But now they need him to propel them so they step up. there are a lot of people that are of the belief that Leon is past this fight with Masvidal because Masvidal got knocked out so violently in the last fight against Usman. But when, again, the money, the ability to put this big name on the resume in a matchup that honestly favors Leon Edwards. This is a good matchup for Leon Edwards. But after watching what Nate Diaz did, how could Jorge Masvidal not feel confident going into a fight like this against Leon? Technically, Leon Edwards should be okay in this fight. When you watch him for all the skill that he possesses, you think that Leon Rocky Edwards would beat Jorge Masvidal. We have seen Jorge Masvidal struggle with people with this type of skill set. So technical, so very disciplined. Leon doesn't really make mistakes. He's a talented striker, very smart, and has added a ton of wrestling since the first fight with Usman, the last fight that he has lost. Spent time with us at AKA, has great wrestling in England now in his training camp. He's truly well-rounded. So when you match these two up, he should be okay. But after watching the Diaz fight and Nate hurting him in the way that he did, and knowing what Masvidal did to Nate Diaz, look, guys, I love Nate. That's my boy. But Masvidal was winning the fight. The cut was best case scenario for Diaz because he's so tough that you're not finishing Nate Diaz, And also, if Nate, when he loses, the story, he doesn't lose. Nate Diaz actually doesn't lose. He might lose fights, they go on his record, but something always happens to where he doesn't lose because the story becomes something a tad bit different. What I mean by that is, the cut was the story against Masvidal. Him rocking Leon became the story. He's such a massive favorite of the fans that there are ways in which the storyline changes when he loses fights. This brings this question for Leon Edwards. He's won, and he's won, and he's won. But there's always seemed to be something missing. I believe that if you really want to market this thing for Edwards, if you really want to truly propel him into that title fight, you stick a belt on him. You make this for the BMF title. Why? He just beat Nate Diaz, who fought for the BMF title. Now he's fighting the guy that won the BMF title. Make another belt. You don't have to, it doesn't really have to matter, right? Because the BMF title came out of thin air. It was a black belt. Look cool as shit. Make another one. Make another one. Let Jorge keep that one. Let him keep that version of it. Make another BMF title. And if Rocky wins, now you got him walking around with a belt. BMF versus the champ. If it's Usman, it's a rematch. If it's Covington, it's fresh. Saying if it's Covington leads me to my next point for Gamebred and Gamebred's team, the Kawa brothers, Abraham Kawa specifically, because he's the one that's handling the mixed martial arts portion of the fight game, of the management company. They have now set Jorge up once again, knowing that Kamaru Usman, the champion, fights Colby Covington in the rematch, knowing how close that fight was in November in New York City. Knowing this, knowing Masvidal and Covington have a strong storyline, a strong dislike for each other, former teammates, knowing how much the UFC loves that. They love that story. They love friends becoming foes. Stick them a month after the title fight. What if Covington wins? Now what? What if Masvidal wins? Hey, for him, best case scenario is Colby wins. Hates him, but he wins. Fresh champion. Usman doesn't have the belt no more. The guy that just knocked you out in the second round. Now, you just beat the number one contender. Friends becomes foes equals pay-per-view sales. Now the Kawa brothers have put him in position now again, a month after the title fight, to fight the number one contender coming off of 2 losses. And if there's a new champion, all bets are off. I know that Kamaru Usman's training. He is a savage. He intends on going out there and punishing Colby Covington. And if we have seen anything in the rematch, we know how dominant he can be after what he did to Masvidal. That first Covington fight was 2-2 going into the 5th round. And Kamaru just had a little bit more to finish the fight in the way that he did. I'm of the belief that Colby Covington is the toughest fight in the division for Kamaru Usman every time. So once again, first round management. Hats off. Because you have now put your guy in a position, if he can win one more fight with a new champion, he might be staring on the barrel of a title fight against his former roommate. So think of the levels to this fight that got announced today. It's all great for Leon Edwards because all he has to do now is win. Because once you have won 9 in a row, 10 fights unbeaten, and you put another one like Jorge Masvidal right behind Nate Diaz, it don't matter what anybody feels about your fighting style. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about it. You're getting a title fight, especially if Usman wins. Colby Covington wins, Leon wins, you might see a trilogy fight between Colby and Usman. But what I don't feel so confident about is if Colby wins and Masvidal wins. That storyline may be too, it just might be too tempting for the UFC to pass on right now in regards to Usman getting that trilogy fight. I don't know. There's a lot of ifs and buts, and that's what we love as fans. So now, November in New York City becomes even more important, but December 11th also becomes more important. One thing I can tell you is that when you look at this division, a dominant champion like Kamaru Usman has no intention of letting that belt go. So Colby Covington has to bring his A game if he wants to stand a chance. But know that this fight getting announced really does add layers to an already stacked division. I tell you, I'm off for a few weeks, so I'm going to keep pumping these videos out. The reality is, I can't wait to New York now, and I'm even more excited about December 11th in Las Vegas. The welterweight division is heating up, ladies and gentlemen. And guess who gets to sit ringside for every one of those fights? Your boy, and I can't wait. It's going to be good. Let's go.